Have you seen The Holiday, where two people swap homes and a love story blooms from there? Well, Netflix has brought us a somewhat similar premise in Your Place or Mine, but this time the romance is more of the long distance kind. Debbie and Peter are best friends and total opposites. She craves routine with her son in LA, he thrives on change in New York. When they swap houses and lives for a week, they discover what they think they want might not be what they really need. So if you've watched my channel before, you know that my bar for rom-coms, it's fairly low. I'm looking for a cute story, at least some mild laughs, some chemistry between the characters, and ideally a fresh take on the genre. Here, we've got Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher, who are our leads, and both of them bring a somewhat reserved and grounded approach to their characters. I want to start with Ashton Kutcher because I think his performance was more unexpected for me. I always picture him in things like That 70s Show or Dude, Where's My Car, even though I know he's done serious roles like taking on Steve Jobs in Jobs. He's also no stranger to romance stories, but in this, he's a very relatable and down-to-earth guy. He's a bit cheesy when he tries too hard to bond with Reese Witherspoon's son, but it just comes off as endearing and sweet, despite the cringe that we know the kid is feeling. Now, Kutcher's mannerisms and reactions, they're also understandable and accessible because he behaves in situations much like anybody would. And even despite his rich single guy lifestyle, he's somebody that I found myself rooting for very easily. And then we've got Reese Witherspoon. She's best friends with Kutcher's character and is also a single mom. Now, the last couple of things that I've seen her in, she's been dark and angry. So this was a nice change. I know she's not just done those types of performances, but they're what I've seen her in recently. So I most just equate her with a more angry persona. Now, in this rom-com, she's bubbly and charismatic, and also grounded. She's got concerns for her son, and while she may come across, and may even be, slightly overreactive and overprotective, she's got a good heart, and she's a nice person who gets along well with everybody around her. She gets to insert also some low-key comedy, especially through quips and looks, and each of these made her even more appealing as the character. Now, much of the movie, the pair are not together on screen. It's kind of like Sleepless in Seattle, where they're on two different sides of the country. Here, they already know each other, but when they swap homes, they're still separated by a few thousand miles. So all of the interactions, they're done over the phone or via FaceTime. And I like how the film tackles this visually. Now, sometimes it's very seamless and even surprising at how they're displayed, which then illustrates the closeness in their friendship. And then we have the visuals that transition to show the separation in space, reminding us that they're not necessarily on the same page, even though as an audience, we want them to be. There are some supporting characters in this that really made the movie for me. First, there's Zoe Chow. Now, she's a friend of Peter's who's then instantly befriending Debbie. And their interactions are quick-witted, mildly snarky at times, and typically funny. And they have instant chemistry, and it comes across that while Zoe Chow's character only just met Debbie, she's able to be fast friends with anybody that she meets, and she's never met a stranger. Now, Debbie also has a friend that Peter comes into contact with, and the dude is named Zen. Now, he's played expertly by Steve Zahn. Zahn is kind of like Sam Rockwell for me. He just makes everything better. And in this, his small cameos are odd and hilarious. Think hippie philosopher stoner without the weed. He's utterly chill and sometimes makes the scenes uncomfortable, which are then funny. Now, a mutual friend of both Debbie and Peter is a character played by Tig Notaro, and I love the commitment to the gag that she is always holding a cup of coffee. She's dryly hilarious, consistently just delivering her deadpan humor, and then that's mixed with sarcasm. And while she's not on the screen much, she is a bright spot every time she's there. And because no rom-com is complete without at least a little conflict to drive the story, Jesse Williams is a character who introduces a complication into Debbie's life. Now, he's wonderful in the role because he's charming and easygoing, and he's also down to earth. So he's somebody that you'd root for Debbie to fall for, even if you're also hoping that she's going to get with Peter. Now, there is a section of the film that is pretty useless in the grand scheme. There's a character played by Griffin Matthews. Now, I love him in The Flight Attendant, but in this, he's really only the MacGuffin that puts Witherspoon's and Williams's characters in each other's path. His entire storyline could be removed and it wouldn't change the trajectory of the story in the slightest. And really, that also goes for Steve Zahn's character too. He's just a comedic inclusion who's fun to see, but he adds nothing in the larger scheme of the story. I do think this is just a little long for the story that they're telling. And there are sequences that involve Peter and Debbie's son that ultimately they just don't add a ton to the story. They're great for showing some character growth and learning on Peter's part, but a couple of the scenes are too drawn out for what they contribute to the narrative. This is an hour and 49 minutes long, so it's certainly on the longer side for a rom-com. Trimming scenes down and then removing others, it would help this to be a little more efficient and help us get to where we're going faster. Because, in a rom-com, we want the payoff. Or at least I do. I want a relationship to work out. And ideally, it's the two leads who I've been cheering on the whole time. I know that doesn't always happen, but it's what I hope for. Now, from a technical aspect, the filming's just fine. I'd mentioned that I really liked some of the ways that Kutcher and Witherspoon are shot together but separately. But outside of that, there's nothing groundbreaking or new. But also, there's nothing that's lackluster or even tragically bad. So overall, Your Place or Mine is a simple story that's made enjoyable because of the grounded and relatable performances that interject reserved comedy into situations, making the whole thing adorable and easy to watch. The story does take a bit too long to tell, and it includes portions that don't add positively to the narrative, but all in all, the sweetness of the friendship combined with the lighthearted humor overshadows any negatives and makes this an enjoyable romantic comedy that's great for a casual watch. There's sex, no nudity, some profanity, and just a tiny bit of violence. I give Your Place or Mine 3.5 out of 5 couches. So, have there been any good rom-coms that you've seen recently? Let me know what you watched in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.